Influencers need to start running for office. Pretty incredible idea, I know, but let me explain. First off, both Democrats and Republicans on either side of the aisle often find it very hard to recruit politicians. Now, normally you think, oh, there's a bunch of people who want to run for office. They all have egos, but it's actually very hard to find good talent. I was just at a race for a county commissioner the other day, talked to some heads of different Republican and Democratic parties. Both of them said the same thing. We have a recruitment problem. Influencers could fill this gap and actually be a huge influence upon not only the United States, but the media market if influencers themselves start running for office. So, what would that look like and what would that entail? Well, first, let's go over the benefits. Especially if you're a politician or a political party, why would you want influencers to run? And why would you, as an influencer, want to run? Point number one, they're financially secure. Most of the time, influencers, by definition of being an influencer, already have huge followings and huge financial support. The influencer model normally comes from ad based revenue, but also comes from sponsorships, which means they are very independent people. More often than not, they build very independent brands where their customers, followers, those loyal to their brand really like them almost regardless of what they do. This is a very good thing because if you think about political people and politics, one of the hardest things to do is fundraise, get money, and gain traction and notoriety. Influencers already have that. So, point number one, they're already financially secure. Point number two, they already have a following. Now, this can get tough because depending on the seat that they are running for, it could be very local. So, if you're running for a state representative, even if you're running for Congress, no matter if your following's 2 million people, they might be all over the world, all over the United States. At the end of the day, you need people in that district to vote for you. However, that audience gives you a huge amount of reach and a huge amount of political influence. Now, you just need to call upon those actors within your district, even on a county or city level, to then energize those people and that base. Further, even if it's not necessarily relevant to your viewers, you gives you a platform, that 2 million followers, to talk about different ideas at that local level and relate them appropriately. Number three, and I think this is one of the more interesting points, your customers, your followers really appreciate a journey. So for a lot of influencers, it's kind of hard to balance the fact that what are you going to give up and what are you going to gain if you're running for office? If you're running for office, you have this unique opportunity to really inspire a lot of your followers. It gets tricky because by definition, for running for office, most of the time you have to choose either Republican or Democrat. That might siphon off some of your followers, especially just say your specific brand is apolitical and you're talking about clothing, vitamins, crypto as good examples. But if your followers have been following you, more than likely you have made some stances known, and you can always justify what kind of Republican or Democrat you are. So it could still play to your advantage. Further, it would still drive a lot of traction and a lot of engagement within your audience. So it could be fun. There is always going to be a risk. You will certainly gain some followers and you certainly lose some followers, but no one appreciates something more than a journey. And that's what running for office is. Number four is I think influencers running for office could bring a lot of power to transparency. So, one of the biggest problems in elections is often what is honest and what is real. A lot of the times, there's no platform for people to speak about these things, especially on a local level. And at a local level, a lot of people are scared of the bully pulpit. A lot of people are scared of being called out in public. At the local level, oversight isn't actually that good. You don't have a lot of public eyes. And at local levels, especially the county and city level, you might have a report or two, but let's be honest, no one really cares. What normally happens is it gets overshadowed by whatever is happening at the federal level and at the state level. An influencer can bring a huge amount of transparency going on at the local level, and they can translate that transparency to other people in other cities and other counties in order to show what could be going on in their backyard. I think the last point is actually the power of fundraising. Now, even though influencers most of the time are already self-funded, you have to remember that fundraising is hard. In fact, fundraising is the majority of what Congress does. You have 2-year term limits in Congress. You have 4-year term limits here at the state level for governors and super gubernatorial races. That means there's a consistent cycle of having to fundraise. Influencers are so widely connected There's nothing saying that even if you're running for a county commission or a state legislative office, that you can't accept the money from out of state or throughout the state. Money doesn't have to just come from your district. So you can use that notoriety to give you a financial advantage over your opponents. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, I think there's a good case to be made for influencers really being the face of the future Democratic and Republican parties. In some sense, some people become elected representatives and then become influencers themselves. They're able to use their speaking and their abilities at media and marketing to use their congressional seats to become an influencer. AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, Matt Gaetz. Those are some of the best, I think, examples of that. Both of those happen to be on the far right and far left of the political party. But all that to be said, they are influencers. Their reach goes far beyond just their districts, and they've done that on purpose. So if you're an influencer and you're watching this, I think you should highly consider getting involved at a local, state, or even federal level. There's a lot of influence you could have, more influence than you might think. And that is something that you should pay attention to. And who knows, maybe at the end of figuring out how much influence you have, you may decide to run yourself.